Hey yo, what's good everybody? It's me now, and we're here back with a brand new part 5 for What If Asta was Meliodas' son. If you guys have not already, please make sure to go and check out the previous parts. In the upper right hand corner, there'll be a link to the playlist so you guys can catch up if this is the first time you've seen this video. And yeah, let's get right back into where we had left off right after the intro. This is a tale of ancient times, an era before the human and non-human worlds were forever divided. After many, many battles, the 7 deadly sins, an order of legendary knights, would be divided. Dragon Sin Meliodas and Princess Elizabeth would have a son in a faraway land, and his name was Asta. Asta would eventually attain his own grimoire and start his journey to become the Wizard King. Last time, Asta, as well as Noelle, had met up with the Golden Dawn's members that had been sent, including Juno, Mimosa, and Klaus. The 5 people now, the 5 magic knights I should say, would then descend into the dungeon as Asta and Klaus would have a contest, with Asta insulting William Vangeance, the leader of the Golden Dawn, and then of course with, well, Klaus attacking back against Yami. The two would be all fired up as they decide they're going to make it to the bottom of the dungeon first. And currently we see Asta flying using his angel wing along with Noelle as they're flying down towards the descent into the dungeon. Meanwhile, Luck had gone off on his own to find danger, and Luck would begin to have his battle just like he had in the original with one of the members of the Diamond Kingdom's magic knights. As Luck uses his lightning armaments, he'd be continuing to do battle with the smoke user as they begin to descend through the dungeon as well, with the smoke user being broken up from Mars and the others who we'd know had been sent. This magical knight who uses smoke would then introduce himself to Luck as being Lotus. Lotus sent from the Diamond Kingdom as he begins reminiscing over his battle with Yami Tsukihiro. He explains to Luck about his battle with the Black Bull's captain many years ago on the battlefield in war between the Clover and Diamond Kingdoms, but Luck just says that he wants to have a good fight, as he then pounces towards Lotus. Lotus at this point had been using his weakening spell ever since the fight had started, and Luck was starting to feel his magical power draining away. However, in Luck's mind, we can see an image of his mother, pushing him to fight harder, as Luck would dive deep into the depths of his magical power and export even more energy, as he pulls out more lightning magic and continues fighting against Lotus. Lotus at this point would have no choice but to use one of his trapping spells. Using his smoke, he would create bars of smoke that surround Luck and capture him, while Lotus makes his escape to go and try and find Mars. Speaking of Mars, meanwhile, towards the center of the dungeon, the Golden Dawn have run into a problem, as Mimosa has been attacked by Mars, and now Juno and Klaus are fighting against him, with the two having actually a hard time keeping up with him. Asta, on the other hand, is with Noelle, as the two keep flying down into the dungeon, would actually run into Luck just like they did in the original. As they see Luck captured in smoke, Asta will quickly pull out Lost Vein, as he covers it with anti-magic and slashes through the bars, quickly releasing the smoke. Asta would ask what happened, with Luck saying that there's no time, and he's going after that guy. Lotus would turn around as he can sense his magical power having been deactivated, wondering how Luck could have escaped his slow death by suffocation, as Luck comes charging down at full speed towards him. Both Asta and Noelle follow close behind his lead, as they see Luck taking on this smoke user, who's now throwing heavy wads of smoke everywhere to block their vision. Asta would offer his help, with Luck declining almost immediately. Asta grit his teeth and say that they're comrades, and that he's not going to leave him to this fight alone. And if they actually want to beat the Golden Dawn, they have to get to the middle layer of the dungeon as fast as possible. After a little bit more fighting between Lotus and Luck, Asta would have had enough, as he tells Noelle to stand back. As he's now preparing to get into the fight himself, he pulls out Lost Vein again from his anti-magic grimoire, as well as his Demon Slayer's sword. As he charges anti-magic and covers the blades with them, he would then prepare himself as he then releases a bit of his demon power to increase his physical strength. "That's enough," I said, he would say, as he swings as hard as he can, a burst of anti-magic flowing forward like a wind, and hitting through the smoke, destroying the entire smoking area, With Luck and Lotus both impressed, Asta at this point would have suddenly teleported, as his full speed is even higher than Luck's. Asta at this point would then slash a floss fan on Lotus's back, causing him to fall to the ground unconscious. I used the blunt end of my blade so I didn't kill him, Asta would say, as he tells Luck that's enough, and they need to get to the middle of the dungeon there. Luck would be disappointed as he says that he's going to fight Asta once to get out of here. Asta would agree, giving a smile and saying he's down to fight Luck whenever. Luck would be giddy thinking of fighting Asta and the prospect behind it, as he says he can wait for a little bit longer, with the three of them then now descending into the dungeon more. Mars at this point is pretty much bullying Yuno and Klaus, with Yuno now having to actually use his full power, and that not even being enough. Before anyone can do anything, Lotus suddenly begins to turn to smoke as he escapes out of the dungeon. Asta turns around just in time as he sees, thinking that he should have been knocked out, before realizing that he didn't put enough anti-magic into it, thinking that he must have more anti-magic than this. What Asta doesn't realize is that the dripping of anti-magic power that he has access to is nowhere near as an amount of energy that he has in his other halves. So when Asta released all that anti-magic, his swords had none left on it when he hit him, so he really just knocked him out temporarily, but he didn't take away his magic. Asta would be frustrated, but the three would continue into the dungeon, as Luck senses someone with even more power approaching. Someone incredibly strong. Back to Yuno and Klaus. Klaus is analyzing the target, Mars, and he can see a magical stone on Mars's forehead, which gives him the recollection of the rumors that the Diamond Kingdom had been performing experiments on children with magic stones. As this is the point when Yuno's finally pushed Mars enough to make him use his grimoire. Mars will unlock his grimoire as he prepares to use his ice magic. Mars would recommend to Yuno that he gives up, with Yuno breathing heavily. "I'll never give up to someone as weak as you," he would say, as Yuno powers up more wind magic and is preparing to now hit another assault of wind blades towards him. But it's futile as Mars prepares to launch a huge attack that is most certainly going to be fatal to Yuno. As Yuno closes his eyes thinking this might be it, suddenly everyone in the room, Mimosa, Klaus, and Yuno, all would open their eyes with shock, as a mass of magic power is now moving towards them. Mars could feel it too as he turns around, and just as he's about to throw his attack towards Yuno, Asta would be holding up his hand with a single finger, telling him to stop. We can see Asta's eyes, his left and right eye having now completely different shades, one covered in darkness, purples and blacks, an empty pit, an abyss, and the other shining so bright, golden. Asta now has released almost 60% of his full power, as he has half of his half with the angel half, and he now has some darkness covering his body on his right. As Asta begins to walk forward slowly, Mars would quickly throw the attack towards Yuno. Suddenly, Asta's clone would move up, as it attacks using Lost Vein and cuts the blade in half, causing Mars to be shocked. Asta would deactivate his clone as he swipes Lost Vein. This is when he would tell him that he's not going to fight against Yuno anymore. His fight's with him. Asta would ask what the hell happened, and Yuno would be sitting there in a pitiful state. Asta would then get an apology from Yuno saying he was too weak, with Asta saying he'll take it from here. Mars would be intrigued and also scared. Asta would close his eyes, he then reseals his magic powers, saying that's way too much for a small fry like you. Mars would get angry from this, as he then tells him not to underestimate him, saying that he has two types of magic. Mars doesn't hold back as he creates a humongous blade, and then shoots it towards Asta full power, as he then activates his flame ability from his other half, as he then begins healing himself and recovering his magical power from his fight. He'll need everything if he's even going to damage this guy. Asta looks up as he just blinks towards the blade. It's almost like nothing happened. No one in the room even saw the movement, as Asta had swiped his Lost Vein against the blade. Full counter. Asta using full counter would have sent the blade flying back. Mars shocked as the blade is then completely turned around and shot back towards him, piercing him in the right arm, almost ripping it off in fact. If he didn't have Phoenix Cloak, it would have not been able to heal as quickly, and he would have been disarmed. While Asta continues pushing Mars towards the back of the dungeon room, the treasure room, Asta would already have won the battle. Both mentally and physically, Asta was superior, with Asta right at this point in time probably being around the same level as a Magic Knight captain, with just his pure physical strength. Klaus, who had been berating Asta for, has his mouth wide open, as he had felt that raw magical power, untamed, as Asta's energy was probably even higher than Captain Vengeance's. Yuno would look back towards Klaus, who just has nothing he can say, as we see Asta now taking off his black bull's robe and throwing it aside, saying he doesn't want to get it damaged in the fight. Asta would suddenly speed forward as he slaps Mars across the head with his hand, open palm, as Mars feels a surge of energy slam into him. Mars doesn't even have time to react as he now has memories of Fauna come flooding back into him, thinking about the time of what happened to her. He tries to push this aside as he then gets pushed back, with Asta throwing a quick punch into his gut. Mars would be sent flying backwards as he covers himself with crystals in order to defend the blow. Mars is still completely knocked out though, and then Klaus would just bind him using his steel magic. Asta would question the ability of this bind, with Klaus not able to say anything, Asta offering to do it himself instead, but Klaus would say he has to do something. This would come back to bite them later, but not for now, as they would then enter into the treasure room to figure out what treasures were there for the Clover Kingdom. There was an enormous amount of gold as well as some other magical treasures there as well, with Yuno gravitating towards a certain scroll, which had wind currents around it. With Asta being guided by Nero to a different location, Asta would see a wall that has a similar door opening to the one that they had to use to get into the treasury, which is made of magical power. Asta would take out the Lost Vein blade and cover it with anti-magic as he slashes through the door, revealing that behind it was a jet black steel sword. Asta would pick up the sword as he can already sense it has anti-magic in it, as he would then tell Nero that was a good find as he stores it in his grimoire. By adding it to the grimoire just like he had added Lost Vein to it, he now has acquired 3 blades that he can use anti-magic from. Asta would then walk as he turns around, noticing something is off, as suddenly Mars would be standing back up as he's using his Phoenix ability. He'd broken out of Klaus's weak binding, as he had now gone back to full power. We see him as he's using desperation, as he's saying that he's not going to fall here. Using his crystals, he binds Yuno, who had just unlocked the scroll by the way, as well as Klaus, Mimosa, and he was now attacking Noelle. As Noelle just gets hit by a critical injury, Asta sees it just in time, as he's shocked. Mimosa, who's trying to heal Noelle, would suddenly be attacked by Klaus as Asta appears just in time, using his newfound blade as he slashes at the attacks. It's still not lighter than Lost Vein, but it's something, and he already has grip on it, so it was easier than having to recall Lost Vein. By using his new Demon Dweller's sword, he would continue blocking the attacks, as a barrage of attacks continues flying towards Asta. Asta would say he's not going to let Mars get away with this, as he's about to power up and unlock more of his energy. Before he can, though, Asta would quickly grab the blade that's next sent towards him with his bare hands, as Asta's left side would have been unlocked. Asta would unlock his angelic half, which would increase his strength and magical power, as using his right hand, he can easily now handle these attacks single-handedly. While Asta focuses his right side on defending, he would look back to Noelle and tell Mimosa that he's got this, as he places his hand over Noelle, healing. As Asta uses his energy, he can see the orange light in his eye glow for a split second, as Noelle's injuries would almost instantaneously heal as she gasps for air. "Good, you're alright," Asta would say, as he's still blocking attacks. Asta would reseal his energy as he then tells Mars he's going down, as Mars throws another extremely fast attack. Yuno at this point would have broken out, but he doesn't actually have to do anything in order to save Asta, since Asta's easily able to handle Mars in this timeline. Mars would break down from the memories of Fauna as well as everything that he had done to get to this point, as Yuno would watch as Asta casually walks forward and would slash with full strength as he stabs Mars, taking Mars down. As Mars completely knocked out and devastated from the anti-magic that flowed through him, Asta would and Yuno would both have missed a recollection in this. In the original, we would see that Yuno would have met Sylph for the first time. That's the wind spirit. But we didn't get that because Asta was easily able to handle it, so Yuno wasn't desperate enough to where he needed her. And then we also don't learn about Asta's third sword in this case, the Demon Dweller sword, having the ability to absorb magic and then resend that magic. So that's something that Asta would miss out on as well. Anyway, everyone's alive, and Asta and Mimosa would help heal everyone, with both Mimosa and Noelle impressed and acknowledging Asta as being so powerful. They couldn't even believe that he was a peasant. It's just not possible that someone from such a low-born family could have that much power. Asta would then suddenly feel a shaking in the ground, as he would then tell them all that they need to get out of there now. In this time not having to worry about Asta being injured, Asta would insist that they take Mars with them, as Asta would pick up Mars and say, "Let's get out of here." With the entire group now going on to Yuno's wind vessel, they would all then begin to get out of the dungeon as they escape falling rubble, as well as Luck and Klaus would help defend against it, with Asta covering the rear. The Clover Kingdom mages would escape as they successfully get out of the dungeon, which had been causing them so much trouble for this entire day, and they'd finally escaped after collecting some of the treasures as well. With the entire group having made it out of the dungeon, suddenly we would see some of the Diamond Kingdom's knights also come flying out from just before the cavern would collapse. We see Lotus using his smoke magic along with several other Diamond Mage Kingdom knights. In all the shock and confusion with Lotus and then releasing a whole bunch of smoke, they would grab Mars off of Asta's back and run, as Asta realizes with a big blinking sign pointing down on his back with Mars missing that they'd lost their captive. "Ah, damn it," Asta would say as he asks them if he wants them to go after them, with Klaus saying that it should be fine for now, saying that they mostly accomplished their mission here anyway. And then they would head back and report to the king. With the entire group heading back, both Mimosa and Noelle would be impressed with Asta even more now after seeing his incredible power. Yuno wouldn't be too shocked after having seen Asta actually go at 100% before, back in Hajj Village, and these guys haven't even really seen Asta's full power. See, when I said 60% of Asta's power, I meant physical strength. I should probably clarify that, by the way, not magical power. If Asta released around 60% of his actual magical power, a few things would have been different. You guys remember when Meliodas, Asta's father, had his power unlocked? How just that much power actually had the sky grow dark? Asta using 60% of his magic power would probably have caused the entire dungeon to just be completely immersed in darkness. Enough of my blundering so as I can make the power scaling make a bit more sense for anyone who's wondering. Basically, Asta used 60% of his full physical strength, because demons have incredible high physical strength as well, and that's what he had to use to defeat Mars. Enough of that, back to the Clover Kingdom. So the group would have reported back to Julius, who would have reported to William and Captain Yami for thanks for a job well done. Julius would invite each group to come to a magical night banquet, where they would then have their classes moved up as well as any stars given to them and things like that. Asta would be excited to go to the capital for such an event, and Yuno would be pretty excited too. When Julius sees Asta again for the first time, he's quite amazed as he's about to say something. In his mind, Julius wants to say that Asta looks so much like his father, but he can't. Asta would be confused as to why the Wizard King's looking at him for so long, before Julius would then snap back to his senses and laugh, touching his head saying it's no big deal, and telling all of them to be on their way. Asta would give Yuno a fist bump as he tells him that was a pretty awesome mission, and tells Yuno to get stronger for the next time. With Yuno nodding, saying he's going to have to figure out what this message in the scroll actually means and what kind of spell it is. Asta and Yuno would part ways, with Mimosa now blushing, saying goodbye to Asta. Asta would wave back to Mimosa, and he and Noelle, along with Luck, would then head back to the Black Bull's hideout. If you guys want to see the next part for What If Asta Was Meliodas' Son, make sure to slam the like button, comment down below what you thought of the video, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this from me. In the next episode, we'll be getting to the next arc of Black Clover, which should be pretty interesting, so we'll see how that turns out. And I'll see you guys in that part. As well as if you want to see any other videos from me, make sure to check out my video playlist and see if there's anything that catches your eye. I'll see you guys later then.